Wilf Mannion, now a labourer, once the golden boy of the back pages, obligingly lends credence to even the crudest cliché.
I'll see you tomorrow, anyway.
For he was an international inside forward with a legendary flair and brilliance that can still be relied upon to jog the memory of even the most forgetful fan. But if Ayresome Park was the scene of many of the triumphs of Mannion's career, including one memorable Football League match against Blackpool, recollections of which still revive the most morose Teesside saloon bar, the talent was forged in a tougher, less spectacular school. Of course, the northeast of England, where they used to say you could shout down a pitch shaft and come up with a first division football team, has long been used to tales of schoolboy footballing prodigies. Mannion's talent, however, was the product of a unique community. South Bank is the most working-class district of a working-class town. It's dominated by the steelworks which first brought Middlesbrough to life. The works were built by Irish labourers who stayed on to live and work there. It remains a fervently Roman Catholic community, with football as the only rival religion.
You know, we played with anything we could get hold of. We could, if we couldn't afford say a six-penny ball, we'd make a rag ball or a paper ball. Sometimes we'd go to the butcher and he'd give us a pig's bladder and we'd blow that up. Football was the only way out. Other than that, you had to go into the shipyards or the steelworks, blast furnaces or anything like that. That's the only choice you had. 3 directors from Middlesbrough Football Club came down to my house to sign me. My brother didn't want me to sign at all. He wouldn't have it that I should sign for Middlesbrough. But the directors played on my parents and said he would be better at home if he went down south of the Arsenal and so on, that you don't know what he'll be up to. And my brother, when I signed, my brother flew out in disgust, and I'll never forget his word. He says, "Well, you've signed your death warrant."
A career which was to reach its climax at Wembley in 1951, in the famous international against Scotland, with Mannion, as usual, the smallest member of the England team.
The accident that more or less finished him in football was at Wembley, playing for England. Billy Liddell broke Wilf's jaw. He was only, what, 5'7"? But climb for a ball, it was just timing. Billy Liddell was a bloke, 6 foot. And he was way above Billy Liddell. That's how Liddell hit Mannion's jaw with his head, because Mannion was so far above him that he headed the ball, and Liddell headed Mannion's jaw. And I think that it certainly finished his England career anyway.
It was the last major international in which Mannion was to play. If newsreels were at last beginning to keep up with the play without resorting to shots of cheering fans to cover every goal, it was still light years away from today's instant action replays. And this makes comparisons between footballers of Mannion's generation and those of today largely a matter of memory.
Had he been playing football now, well, he could have commanded any figure. I mean, you couldn't put a price on him. He could have commanded any figure had he been playing now. He was born 32, about 30 years too early. That is the tragedy of Wilf Mannion.
You see these people now getting testimonials, and nowhere near in the same class as what Wilf Mannion was. And even now, these days, so many years later, you read in the paper and they mention forward lines and Mannion, Finney, Matthews. Mannion's also included. And I think somebody should have done something for him in Middlesbrough.
Well, I might have been unlucky in football, but I must pay tribute to my wife. I think I had a marvellous wife, and I think if I hadn't have had her, I think I'd have broken up a long time ago.